Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here for the 16th episode of David Ellison playing the Bright Young Thing Legacy in Cultist Simulator. It has been a week. I hope you're all having a good Friday and are looking forward to the weekend. I could definitely use a rest. But one thing that I should have mentioned in the previous episode that I never really thought about was the fact that we're working on the Grail is kind of neat. So mechanically, and again, this is just one of these things that tends to happen when you play Cultist Simulator and you think a bit about it. We're following the Grail because this seems to be the most likely way to advance, not just in terms of getting through our commissions, but also through solving the Stag Doors riddle. And this is the main reason why I'm doing the Grail. But it did also occur to me, right? What's happening inside of this character's story? Well, they went from being, the start of the Bright Young Thing, and they were getting a collection of books, which maybe they took seriously, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were just a nice thing to collect. And we moved on, and we found a little bit about the family's legacy, and what was going on with Papa and such. And we decided to go our own way. We've dedicated ourselves to enlightenment as opposed to the original sensation, temptation. And so one of the things that's kind of fun about this, again, there's a mechanical reason why I'm following the Red Secret, but one of the things you can sort of see inside of this story here is maybe asking the what if question, right? If you're somebody who's seeking out enlightenment and you have wound up sort of frustrated by the fact that you are now limited in terms of what you have access to, maybe there are those moments of, maybe not regret, but, asking the what if questions. And this I'm running the risk of talking about myself a little bit too early because I really do go on when I talk about myself. But moving from Vancouver to Ottawa, one tremendous loss is that the Vancouver Public Library is a thing of beauty. Tremendous collection. I very often would find, between it and the municipalities in the surrounding area, there were very few books that I wanted to read and couldn't find. And of course, once I went to university, that was even better because, of course, what you'll have access to at a university will sometimes be more advanced material that is kind of on the border of what a public library might hold. I remember in terms of Ottawa, I was reading things out. One of the first things I went to do was get a library card, and one of the descriptions for the Ottawa Public Library was, I think, something like, the largest bilingual library in some, I can't remember exactly what the claim was, but then I went to the building and I kind of took a look around and I'm like, the bilingual is doing a lot of work in that statement. It's no disrespect. There's actually a few things that are very interesting about the Ottawa Public Library. There's one that I used to go to quite regularly, which actually is one of the libraries founded by Andrew Carnegie. It may be the first Canadian one from that fund, actually. So that's kind of interesting, right? To see these old libraries. I believe actually in that case, the library may be older than the... No, hang on, that's not true. I should probably get my dates right on that. It is also nice to talk about libraries because of Book of Hours and all of that. But this is a very real kind of preoccupation. There's a reason why I'm sort of thinking about this right now, because, career-wise, there are some things that I feel like they could be going better. I really do miss that public library in Vancouver. And I definitely know what it's like to want to read a particular set of books. For those of you who are interested in this sort of thing, there is a blog on the Weather Factory site which actually talks about a lot of the influences on Cultist Simulator. And one of the great shames about it, that post, is that the majority, I think, of the works that are referenced there are not necessarily ones that are available to me in the local library system. And that's something I'm still kind of getting used to. where it used to be the case where I could kind of just get something from the library. I might need to wait for it, but in general, I could sort of rely on being able to get access to things that I was interested in. Whereas now I need to make the decision, is this worth buying? Even if I do it through used system, I need to wait for it to come in the mail and so on and so forth. And even to try and access the local universities, because I'm in a different province than the one that I went to, it's a little bit more of an ordeal to try and get access to the university collections. And generally, particularly with COVID, it's actually quite hard to get into the university library now. So with all of that in mind, this is, again, a little bit of a personal hook that can add some color to the David Ellison story. What we have here, we followed the Enlightenment path, right? The Enlightenment path is the thing that likely was the engine that gave us access to this knowledge that we have right now. But having now hit that new level, having hit that plateau, and not necessarily having a vehicle to be able to pursue our ambition, right? We're not necessarily at, we're not able to pass the Stagdoor's riddle. We don't know the answer to it. We don't have a new source of books. We're currently under investigation, so we want to be minding our own business. Maybe we're looking wistfully over some of those secrets of the Grail and wondering, maybe, did we make the right choice, right? And again, this is going to be something that I think is as much of a reflection of a player that is considering. It is also maybe worth mentioning that we're getting, this is the week that Ottawa started to turn a little bit cold. And I know this is not the place you want to live if you have problems with the cold. So with that in mind, I'm also kind of aware of, I don't know, like I'm primed to be thinking about the turns my life has taken. It's not quite as much of a long dark tea time of the soul, but I think you get the idea, right? Which is, there are things that you can bring from your own life which happen to just give a nice little spin in terms of where the character is. And it comes back to the stuff that I'd sort of usually say at the very beginning of a playthrough, which is that there's lots of different ways that you can define yourself. You can define yourself through your possessions. You can define it in terms of your body, your intellect, the things you know, the people you know. There's lots of different ways of sort of answering, the who am I question. And to a certain extent, because Cultist Simulator is told in terms of cards, it really depends on the circumstances in terms of what framing is the most relevant or the most interesting, or even the most utilitarian, let's say. But with that in mind, you are ultimately going to be bringing a bit of yourself in terms of any playthrough, or at least if you want. Again, I think it's probably one of the more interesting ways of engaging with the story. So with that in mind, right, I'll do the mechanical steps of going back to the Grail, but I do think the thing that winds up sort of being the engine for future playthroughs and the sort of thing that keeps the game interesting as I continue to play on is just realizing, those little callbacks, those little references, and just wondering a bit about the person that I'm playing. And again, I think I've said this before, it's a little bit like how different people will engage with role-playing games. Some people want to play an idealized version of themselves in an unusual setting, and that's completely fine. A lot of people really enjoy that. And other people really love being completely different from how they are. So, I am nothing like a fighter in the real world, but maybe it would be very enjoyable for me to be just a mindless pummeling machine, and that will just be a great way to spend a couple of hours with friends, or a monk or a paladin, or the sorts of things that I don't have that big of a frame of reference for. Other times I may want to play sort of someone who has a few more traits that I directly relate to myself. And sometimes it's just a question in terms of the mood that you're in. Alright, we'll preserve the percussivant as usual. Crowded thoroughfares by day, a fog-wrapped labyrinth by night. I'll set my minions to searching for opportunities. And I prepared the manuscript, so when I can, I'll turn that in with Dr. Redeem, but at this point we should be ready for... I believe we're trying to get rid of another staleness, yes. So, passion for days. Might have been an idea for me to paint the percussivant, but we'll do the mood piece. Oh, sorry, we'll do the mood piece with the subtle fracture. My own heart pumps more strongly today. We won't pay because we're getting rid of staleness. And here we can get the shifty woman, but we won't because, again, we're trying to avoid notoriety. We don't get notoriety by hiring the shifty woman, but we do get notoriety for the things that we would use the shifty woman for, namely betraying them and sticking them in the cupboard. Okay, fascination's not great, but we have ways of dealing with it. Last night, in the billowing blue of the Lodge of the Sage Knight, I sat on velvet cushions and watched two dead contend with shining swords. They came with the place, said the woman who rules here now, the one who once called herself Gallagher. I was not the Sage Knight, if that's what you're wondering. He went higher in the Mansis, long before I came here. My attention has drifted. The swords sparkle like falling water. The dead move like dancers. Okay... I'm just trying to think about how I might want to spend the dream slot. We've got 30 seconds left on the vitality, or sorry. I was really weirded out for a second there, so. It seems a bit of a waste to use the... Well, I'll tell you what, let's see what happens here. We've got blinking in the light. Okay, so delightful sacrament. So pleasant upon the ear, one could listen over and over. These are the words that make sacrifice sweet. Uses the Byzantine taint and moth influence or other resources of equal power to summon a raw prophet. So, let's go... I think I'm actually just going to worry about the Stag Doors riddle first. So, in my dream, I stand... let's just reiterate. What are the words that make sacrifice sweet? Answer this riddle to pass the Stag Door and be accounted a no. In my dream I will stand again before the Stag Door, a ridged barrier of blood-streaked horn, broken long ago, not yet quite healed. That vast and golden head, Gearby, will await the answer to my riddle. Here are those words. Okay, study-wise, let's move on to the next level, so Watchman's Secrets, although I don't think I have any erudition to work with now, so we'll leave that be. I guess actually at this point it would probably be a good idea for me to read whatever's to hand. The world is awash with printed words. Even the newspapers contain knowledge sometimes. I just kind of automatically assumed it would be erudition. It's probably not a bad idea for us to verify. So fragment, you need erudition or an HQ with a library. Yeah. So, so the reason why I did this was I've got about a minute before the sickness went by, so I didn't want to leave the dream slot open. But we have the vitality in reserve, so we'll be fine. Right, my recent work has attracted a couple of callers. With luck, something will sell. Now we were given some advice as far as the delightful sacrament is concerned. If I want, if I can find a little bit of moth to throw at the problem. I might actually be able to, the raw prophet would be helpful with evidence. And this is well within my, means, right? I couldn't do, actually, okay. So here's a weird one for you. I wasn't thinking of this, but this might actually turn out. So if we offer the fascination, take this one out for a second. So if I were to do the sunset rite, delightful sacrament, fascination, and I would need Neville in this. What? Oh, sorry, he's an acquaintance. Oh, so I don't have a knock. I don't get to do that experiment, apparently. That's right, because we didn't wind up bringing Neville in. But yeah, I was just thinking it's actually the subtle fracture isn't the most interesting component of that summoning. It's actually the fact that I could get rid of the fascination that way. Again, I'm not 100% sure if that works for the raw prophet or not, but it feels like it should work. Anyways, we've cured the staleness, so if I want, I can do another big reputation-based painting, and I don't think that would be a bad idea. Because the Grail lore is tied up otherwise. So, yeah, we'll hang on to the subtle fracture. Enid. Enid speaks softly, and sometimes her gaze doesn't focus on anything visible. It may be that you've dreamed the same dreams. Okay, let's go for... We'll turn in with Dr. Adim first. I have what the doctor requested. And then I think we're probably just going to wind up going back to... we're probably just going to wind up talking about lore until we're full up. I have received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. Initiates of the hidden world use Spintrea to pay for services. They can easily be sold for more traditional funds. Silver Spintrea are more valuable and usually display scenes of debauchery on their reverse side. So we got the erudition we needed for the improvement. We couldn't have known that that was... Well, actually, I guess we would have if, now that I think of it, because you can tell what you get from turning in commissions. I wasn't thinking to look for that, let's say. Okay, so let me just think about talk. We can't do anything with Grail right now, can't do anything with Edge. Not quite ready to do a deal with Poppy. So yes, we talk about the Waking Chant. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. And I should have been paying attention because it would have been better for me to use the fascination in a ritual to bring someone in. I believe in this case here I'm going to have to eat the fascination no matter what. I think I've locked myself into... Yeah, the only thing that's going to be free within 30 seconds is the Explore verb, which doesn't help me. Okay, well, that's what I get for not paying attention. I guess there's an outside chance... No, I don't think there's a way that I can paint with the fascination that doesn't result in this thing triggering the wrong kind of attention. The study verb, I might be able to subvert it, but again, the study verb doesn't become available in time, so... My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. And I don't have the... I haven't done anything to change the status of Neville or anybody else. We don't have any knock follower to use the fascinate. Well, maybe another ritual I could do. What else would I... Well, adding edge changes... I don't want to change reason to passion. Yep, I'm just going to take my lumps. This should have an impact. The stag door is the adept's gate. To pass it is to be initiated in the first true mystery of the House of the Sun. The head Gearby weeps to see me enter where it cannot, but it must let me pass. The scarred valves of the door grind open. And the words contain knowledge, now I contain it. It's a little like theft, and a little like feasting, and a little like the progress of an infectious disease. So we're ready to level up the Watchman's Secret. Study the glorious lore. There is a proverb among the practitioners of the invisible arts. Glory visits the house without walls. I would like to know about glory. Alright, so this is going to give us a rumor instead of a follower, and the rumors don't help me because I'm currently under investigation and I don't want to generate a notoriety. There's not a whole lot else we would do with the talk verb right now, so I suppose no harm, no foul. Now, the Painted River is a big risk for me right now because I've already got a fascination. On the other hand, the Painted River is where I get secret histories, and I don't have that much need for the stuff that I can find in the Ascent of Knives, particularly because until I have a Nock follower... Well, actually, sorry, that's not entirely true. I could try and use the Nock lore. Anyways, Painted River is the higher priority for me, but it does come at the risk of the fascination. So, having acknowledged that, sometimes it's nice just to, you know, have a little risk. Huh. Okay. I dreamt of the mansis behind the white door, of the great space above the orchard, the space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted her river. Painted ships passed upon the painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movement of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see those colors still. So we are not going to be... We're not going to be doing anything interesting for the next little while. I am happy we have the way through the stag door, but in this case we need to first of all deal with the affliction, because I will lose this vitality if I don't deal with that now. 21 seconds is not a lot that we can do with the fascination to get rid of it. It would have been the talk verb that gets rid of it for me. Again, I could maybe try and do some... Well, let's see if we can get some funny business done with the study verb now that I think of it. There's a proverb among practitioners of the invisible arts. Glory visits the house without... Oh, sorry, I already did that. Yeah, so no, they're going to want the erudition here, so that's not going to help me. So yeah, we're just going to have two fascination, and I'm going to feel very uncertain about myself for the next little while. Okay, we got some staleness for our trouble. Now again, I do not want to be doing things that'll generate fascination for me, so we are just going to avoid painting for a little while, or if we paint, we're going to do reputation painting. My recent work is considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship. So one thing that's nice here is in 38 seconds we'll get a fleeting reminiscence to bring us a little, you know, move it away from... we'll go to DEFCON 2 to DEFCON 3 with the fascination. I don't really think the best thing for me to do is to wait out the, to wait on another fleeting reminiscence. I'm just trying to think if there's something else that I could do to try and hurry along my recovery from the from the Season of Visions. Hirscholt's Nightmare is something I could work on, but is that really something I want to be dedicating the dream slot for? Doesn't really feel like a good use of my time. Well, I'll think about it. One way or the other, we can at least get a commission in for Dr. Adim. I also should be working on the Delightful Sacrament. Sorry, the commission that uses the Delightful Sacrament. It is the reason why I went for it, and I don't know why I didn't renew the Percussagant. Another Secret Histories commission sounds pretty simple for me. So it's kind of nice when I get things like this, just because it does give me a chance to, like, to just keep myself occupied while I'm not messing around with painting. If I want, I can do more reputation paintings, but one nice side effect, right, is that I'm letting all of this mystique expire. So, you know, it's kind of hard to say that this is like a bad use of my time, right? Like, if I can let the investigation pass by, then that's just going to give me other opportunities a little bit later. Now, I am tempted to turn in with Madame Bichet. I think, though, I want to see... I feel like we're getting near the end of the people we should have in the cult. So I'm going to start by speaking of esoteric matters. And I am going to do a dream. Some people have said... So this text kind of interests me. I have not actually been able to notice a higher frequency of Hirscholt's Nightmare as a result of The Wandering Mind. But the text really is suggestive, and I noticed that when people are giving advice, they usually say, "Oh yeah, just dream with reason." And I actually think dreaming with reason and passion, so far as I can tell, doesn't actually have a practical difference. Likewise, if you try and go to one of the locations and you don't provide the health reason or passion to get to that new level, I don't know if it treats you differently. But in this case here, it says, "There was once a man who said that the sleep of reason produced monsters. Often it is healthy to let the mind wander in sleep, but if I keep dreaming, sooner or later some sort of monster will rise from my own fears." So, you know, this text comes up if you do reason. It doesn't come up if you say passion. But I think in this case here, this is speaking more generally about how the dream mechanic works, as opposed to something specific with reason. Now again, I'm also fairly convinced, like, as far as... Oh, I don't know where that other fascination... No, sorry, this is the same fascination, never mind. I think it's also fair to say that probably the Cultist Simulator community is a little more dedicated in terms of working some of this stuff out than I am. So it could be that somebody's actually sat down and done the tests. But at least for me, it didn't feel like there was a major difference. Now I understand. So again, that was the lantern, so eventually we will be boosting up Mansus Glimpse. This erudition won't be enough, though. We're going to have to study on its own. I finished the manuscript. So if I turn this in with Madame Bichet, that is going to result in another Mystique. I need to decide whether or not that's a risk I'm willing to take. For now, though, I am going to do another Secret Histories commission. That one's going to give me an Iron Spintress, so if I want, that can go into Oriflammes for some extra money. But I certainly don't need it right now, so... That's another patron. That's another inconclusive result, sadly. I've increased the mastery of the glorious lore, which we call by its aspect lantern. So we, again, don't have enough to be able to advance past the Mansus Glimpse. This erudition is going to be gone by the time that I need it. But the snatch of poetry, a single memory of a certain house that all of us visit at least twice in our lives. For one's first visit to the Mansus, this lore is almost essential. So what I'm going to do here is I will read whatever is to hand again. There is the possibility that I will get an erudition from turning in commissions, but given that I'm considering the possibility of just letting this mystique sort of rot and being finished with the investigation, I don't think it's a bad idea for me to just sort of use the tools that I currently have available to me, as opposed to waiting for things that will improve Mystique. Although it is worth mentioning that at the very least here in 1 minute we are going to be generating at least one more Mystique. So I'm not a purist on a couple of these. Okay, leaving the hireling alone again. A profound and restful sleep tonight I will dream of. And exotic creating. So in this case, I am going to do the painting to get rid. Actually, no, we just let that decay into dread. My own heart pumps more strongly today, so we won't go after anything a little more savory. What I am going to do though is go to the stag door, because we know within a minute we will have a solution to the fascination problem. And I finished the manuscript. So, I think I've got a pretty clear idea in terms of the next few steps. So, what we're going to do is so it always feels a little weird to leave the work slot open, but I'm not going to touch the restlessness. In 48.6 seconds, that's going to turn into dread. Sorry, let me just see what's coming up. Season of Visions. Okay. I don't think we need to worry about that one, though. So, in 8.1 seconds, we're going to get another Mystique. So the Mystique that's currently on the table, 41.7, 285.8, and then a brand new one. So it's 25% chance that the brand new Mystique is the one that's going to get picked up. It may even be a good idea for me to just not talk about Grail again, but I think in this case here, because it takes 2 minutes for this to cycle through, I still think it's okay for me to talk about the lore. And again, I do want to make sure that I've sort of filled up these ranks. So that's going to be one Mystique generating activity that I do that maybe isn't the smartest thing, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I think we talked about this before. Restlessness is going to turn into dread. Dread goes into the Season of Visions, cancels out. This one I don't think will trigger in time, 28 seconds, so this one's already going to pass by. We keep using the percussivant with the hireling. We're reading whatever's to hand, so again, we weren't turning in commissions, so this erudition is going to be used to turn the Mantis Glimpse up to the higher level Lantern lore. That doesn't have much to do with the commissions, but it does have to do with trying to level up other followers. We may even be able to use erudition in terms of an influence to be able to give people a little bit extra. I think we'll be able to get up to eight Lantern without getting something from the Mantis, and then if we do wind up with Lantern influence, we can potentially go even higher. That covers us up to... Well, that was talk. Study, I didn't actually specifically talk about this, but we've talked about this before. I probably would start with Moth because that takes me to an even higher level, then Forge, then Winter. Because Winter is just going to give us... Like, the Winter doesn't necessarily give us anything higher. It just happens to move the lower level to something, the next level up. So I'm not opposed to doing it, but it's not the most important thing I can do right now. And then the talk verb, it's obviously we want to turn in the commissions, but we want to turn in the commissions after we clear out the Season of Suspicion. So, this isn't exactly the way I was expecting all of this stuff to transition over, but I'm not unhappy with the way that it's turning out. But I do need to wrap up. Number one, because I am incredibly tired, and I'm looking at the hour, and I cannot believe I have... There's quite a bit that I still need to go through tonight. So, again, I thank you all for putting up with me this week. I feel like a couple of the episodes probably went longer than they should have on things that aren't always interesting to people, but I know are interesting to some. And more importantly, I never want to take an audience for granted, so I do thank you all for hanging out with me for so many sessions of Cultist Simulator, or if you're new, for checking this out up to this episode. I am going to try and get a little bit more rest for the oncoming week. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you Monday. Take care until then.